So good morning, everybody. Welcome. I'm very excited this morning on the Filmmaker's Life, which is my interview series that I started right when COVID started. And I was like, oh my gosh, all my friends who are usually out of the country on set, they're home, and I can get them to come and talk about their careers as filmmakers, and it's just been so much fun. I've kept doing it, even though I guess most of us are back to normal life after COVID, But anyway, I'm really excited today to have one of my own clients on, Chris Johnson, and so when I sort of promote the event, we put Chris's bio out and everything, but here I don't introduce people with their bio because we're going to start at the beginning. And my favorite first question that I always ask is, Chris, when did you know that you were a filmmaker? When did you first know that you were a filmmaker?
Let's see. Well, actually, when we were on production here on Bad Detectives, when everything was finally happening, it took a while to pull everything together. It was our second start. We started like the year before, and these things happen. It just didn't come together. And then we regrouped and started again, and then everything was working. And it was just great. It was great to be on set. I was, on Bad Detectives. We were very fortunate to have just a great character, a man by the name of Presley Paris. He was our director, and he really, ran the show, and at the same time was sharing his knowledge. So it was a wonderful experience.
So this is very interesting. I think you're the first filmmaker I've had on. I'm just going to switch my Wi-Fi over. 1 second. It was on the lower Wi-Fi. So I think you may be the first filmmaker who I've asked that question, who said, I realized I was a filmmaker when I was on set making my feature film. Sometimes people say, well, I was 4 years old, and that kind of thing. And so you had been writing for many years. So
Yes.
all those years that you were writing, did it just never cross your mind that you were a filmmaker?
Not really. I was really kind of locked into that screenwriting mode, and it's kind of easy to be comfortable in that. And you can send out scripts to studios, and hopefully maybe somebody will look at it, and hopefully maybe they'll like it, and hopefully it'll get kicked upstairs. And so, I mean, you can spend years and years going that route. And I was just, by a fortunate coincidence, I'm a member of the Capitol Film Arts Association in Sacramento. They have monthly meetings with guests, and Joanne was one of the guests. And she, Joanne, I'll let you tell about what your consultancy is, but she helped guide me and quite a few other filmmakers through the process of making a feature film. And that was kind of like a big step that, if you really want to see what you've written on the screen, you have to do it yourself. You might get a studio to buy your script, but, it's a rare thing. So one out of 100,000 scripts every year, something like that. So
Really?
yeah, the odds are against you. So to take charge and do it yourself, I really feel it's the next step. Yes.
So it's interesting because there are, actually most of the people who come to my events tend to be people who make films. Either they're on set or they're making documentaries and they're shooting their own documentaries and things like that. I have a smaller percentage of my clients who are writers, but it's just really interesting because you had written, when I met you, how many feature scripts had you written?
I had really 5 done. I
Five.
mean, that I would say completed, and outlines and sketches of several more, but five pretty well completed. So
Yes, yes, and very good, by the way, very good scripts, and it's just interesting to me that somebody who's written five scripts still doesn't think that they're a filmmaker, and I find that a real shame, you know.
huh. Yeah,
But I think that it's sort of the life of the artist is that it feels as though you're an artist when somebody buys your work or something like that, right?
yes, yes, yeah. You're not an artist until somebody has purchased your work. Is that? I
Something
don't
like
know.
that.
I mean, that's a whole another difficult subject to get into. What is art? Yes.
Yes, 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 definitely. What is art? I hardly ever use the word artist, but it's just really interesting that you had five scripts, five very good feature-length scripts, but that didn't count, or something like that. That didn't count. And so somewhere along the line, you made a decision. You were like, okay, you know what? I want to try this. I want to actually make a film myself. Do you know what motivated you to do that? What made you make that insane decision?
Yeah, I had this idea for quite a few years.
Mm.
Um, uh, a lot of years ago in Chico, California, Disney filmed a feature film, a nice Halloween classic, Under Wraps, and they had a call out for extras, and it was really great. I was in a pink elephant suit. It was quite a sight. So we had a lot of fun, and I was like, I can do this. But back then, you had to shoot on film. Film itself was
Ah,
very expensive,
yes, yes.
and the camera to film your project is very expensive. And so, you just, okay, that was a good idea, kind of put that aside. And about 15 years ago, maybe 20, the whole digital evolution came along. And, all of a sudden it was possible, for most anyone to make a feature film. And that's good and bad. Most anyone can, but to take it to the level where it's professionally done, that people would want to see it in a theater or rent it online, that's like the next level up. And that's, I can do this. It's possible. So but and I say to do something like this, it takes everyone. I mean, you don't say it's my project, it's our project, because everybody has to be part of the team, because if the sound guy doesn't show up, you have no sound. If the makeup person doesn't show up, your zombie film, with people without makeup, so you need everybody, and everybody working together to get it done. So it takes quite a bit of planning and preparation uh, to make it happen, but it does. People like making films, and it's a great feeling when you get to the last day, and it's called the martini shot, when you finish the absolute last scene, and then it's time for martinis. So yes.
Well, Chris, I would say though that you have a certain approach, and it is not the approach of all filmmakers. So a lot of filmmakers, I think, get really stuck at this "it's my project" kind of
Hmm.
phase, and it can show up in a lot of different ways. You know, um, I'm thinking of another client who's going through some things now, who has partnered. She, like you, she's a producer, and she's partnered with a director, and the director is bringing a lot to the table, a lot of good stuff, and that we had to have a few conversations about, is this my project or is it her, and I find a lot of my clients get into that kind of thing where somebody wants to take over in a negative way, and so it's important to sort of hold on to, no, it's my project. And I've really seen that, with you over time. So you were mentioning how first of all, we started out with one director and one producer, I think it was, and that didn't move forward. And at that time, I think you really felt like, okay, these people know what they're doing.
Yes. Um,
And and I remember, because it's become a mantra of mine since then, when that director wrote in an email or something that said, "This is the way they do it in Hollywood," I was like, "That's it. He's got to go."
yeah. And, we had in our first whatever attempt here at Bad Detectives, um, we got together and located just an excellent director in San Francisco with a great reputation. And we planned somewhere between a 10-day and a 14-day shoot of filming. And and we're talking with him, and I said, well, this is we're on a tight budget. We're managing our costs, for work on a feature film. Would you do this for 2,500? And he thought about it and he said, that's lower than my normal rate, but I'll be happy to do it. And so, we're great. And we went through a quite a few of the first steps, and we were casting actors and everything. And finally the conversation came along, he understood 2,500 a day. And I'm thinking 2,500 for the whole shoot. And so, we parted as friends. I mean, he couldn't work for that amount. He was a busy individual. There was other jobs that he could take that would pay him that rate, and he deserved that rate. And I was like, at first I was just thrilled. We've got, he's a great director, great reputation, and he's only going to cost us $2,500 for this whole 2 weeks worth of filming. And so anyway, there was no hard feelings. It was just a little misunderstanding, but that's, you have to be very clear when you're setting these things up,
Yeah.
when before you step onto the set. So
Yeah, and it has to all be in writing.
yes, absolutely. Mhm.
So the second go round, you found I can't remember who came first, the director or the producer that you brought on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't remember who came first, but basically, who put together a fantastic team.
Yes.
Just
Yeah. Our original producer, who had to step down after a little while, and then he worked with our director Presley Paris, and between the two of them, I mean, you look at our cast on Bad Detectives, and we have got some just outstanding actors. We were very fortunate to have these people to work with, and so and Presley and myself, and we've just been carrying this project forward, and here we are today. We've got it released. We're not, these days the whole theatrical thing was still kind of shaky with COVID and everything, so we're available to rent or purchase online, Amazon, Fandango, Redbox on demand. So a little promotion there. You always have to be promoting.
Oh yeah,
work. Yes.
good
So
for you. Good for you.
but we're happy the way things turned out, and we'll have another film to be released late this year, November, December sometime.
So I think you are the first guest that I've had on who has the title of writer and executive producer. So the executive producer is the one who brings the finance to a project, and obviously the writer writes the script. So what would you say has been I mean, I've watched you and Presley Paris, the director, working together. What would you say has been the best parts of working with him? What has he brought to the table?
Yeah. His skill, he has been a camera operator for quite a few years. And so he has worked with many directors, many film sets. So he has an incredible amount of experience in the industry, because he moves from one project to the next and to the next. And so he has seen what works as a director and what doesn't work. And he's seen how to treat people and how to, respect boundaries, and how to, settle difficult moments. and to be resourceful and all these things, because he's watched many directors over the years, doing the same thing that he's doing now. So
Yeah.
that's what's really helped.
He's not with us today because he's on a Netflix shoot, right? A
Yes.
series.
Yeah.
Long.
Right. Yes. Right now he is in Colombia.
Oh, is he?
Yes. Yes. So he, travels, where the work is, and so it's been, quite an adventure of a life for him. I think I admire, and what I really appreciate is that he's been open and sharing with, tips and what works and what doesn't. That's really helped me grow inside the industry. That I'm aware of quite a few of these little moments. Yes.
Yeah. I didn't see it so much on Bad Detectives because it was shot in LA, but on The Contrast that you shot in, I always call it Sacramento. That's not exactly
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. We're up here in Glenn County.
Glen
We're
County.
north of Sacramento about 90 minutes. So
That's not Sacramento.
actually near Chico Willows. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Oh, Willows. Yes,
yes,
yes, yes.
Willows. Yeah,
Willows.
Willows is our hometown. So
Right, right, right. So I really got to witness the set that Presley put together for the contrast, and it was just so great to see. Well, one thing that's very important to me, it was the most diverse set that I've ever seen. It really
mhm.
was, in terms of race and gender, and we had a female DP, and we had a no, not the first AD. Who was the
First
first
AD.
AD? Sean?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay, Sean,
Yes.
who was absolutely fantastic. And that was really a fun story because Sean, what did he do
Oh,
on the
yeah.
Bad Detectives?
Sean worked on Year of the we call it the original title Year of the Detective, now
Year
Bad
the
Detectives, uh, um, uh, and worked just various roles. And then on The Contrast, he was a producer, or I should say, excuse me, I'm getting a director, and Presley took on the role of producer. And so that worked really well. I mean, they worked great as a team,
Yes,
kind of filling in for each other. And,
yes,
on small projects like ours, it's all hands on deck. I mean, we're all helping them. Hey, let's move that ice chest. Takes two people. It doesn't matter who you are, in ranking or position or title. Both of us pick up the ice chest and move it. You have to, have that mentality to be successful. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. That is just so true, and something that I'm always talking about. When you're working in ultra low budget productions, that I believe, you have to be even quicker at letting people go when they're not that kind of person, because everybody does need to be. It is an all hands on deck, or it's just not going to work. In fact, I remember the Year of the Detectives. Didn't you make breakfast for the crew one day?
Um,
Was that you, or who did that? Who made breakfast for the whole
I
crew?
think Jenny did, or let's see here. Um,
But it was one of the crew members,
yes, yes.
and the
Uh,
title was not, you know, catering. But
mhm,
anyway,
mhm.
they were cooking the breakfast before they got on set.
Yes, yeah,
That's
and
very, very typical of an ultra low budget set. Very, very
yeah,
typical.
yeah, yeah.
And what would you say as being a writer, executive producer? And when you started, you did not have any experience on a set. You didn't have any experience filmmaking. What have been the biggest challenges for you in the
Um,
process of learning how
the,
to make films?
yeah, the biggest thing is you really need patience, because things just happen slower than you imagine. You think, okay, we're done filming on Friday. By next Monday, I want to be in the theater watching the film. And you just have this in your mind, and it takes as much time in what's called post production. When you're adding the soundtrack, when you're adding songs and vocals and sound effects and special effects, the flash at the end of a gun usually that's added on, things like that. All are each separate steps for a film. You take the film, you take it to the special effects shop, they'll add on those things. Then you take the film and you take it to a sound engineer, sound designer, and then all these little, to have the credits added on at the end, the title sequence at the beginning, each of these steps, and they all take time. You can do things quicker, but it's like anything, if you want rush service, you have to pay for it. And, we are pretty practical people. So we're happy at the pace we're working at. It's the most efficient, and we can deliver a good product. So that's what we like to do.
In terms of budget, what would you say was the best money you spent on anything that you can think of?
I would say on actors. I mean, to have actors that can really bring it and have that whatever ability to see the character and to see something that we as the director or myself as a screenwriter, all of a sudden an actor will, a really great actor will come up with a line or a different way of doing something that makes more sense than what we had imagined in our screenwriting, in our pre-production planning. The director just comes along and just says, hey, I'll do this. And it works, so that's, I think, the best place to spend money. And on your sound. People, they'll forgive a lot of things, but don't scrimp on your sound recording on set. That's, and later on too, really, really important these days to stand out. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you went SAG on Bad Detectives and on The Contrast. Can you explain to everybody a little bit of what that process entails and what SAG is? Maybe let's even assume people don't know what SAG is. Let's start there.
Yeah, SAG is the Screen Actors Guild, and it's a union for actors. They have to achieve certain milestones before they can be admitted into SAG. I mean, as far as experience and number of productions and other things. If they're a SAG actor, you contract with SAG to guarantee that you will pay them a certain minimum rate, that they will work, a certain number of hours. If they work more hours, you will pay overtime. And you, as a filmmaker, you give SAG a deposit to guarantee that you will follow through on all these commitments. And it's really, it's, of course, it's pricey, but you receive people who have made acting a career and are into it. It's, and you can find excellent people from, a local theater or something, but it just depends where you are in your filmmaking journey. I think on your very first project, you would go with, your friends and local actors and things like that. But if you really want to have something that has the potential to receive distribution and, someday to be in theaters, you would want to or you should step up your game and work with SAG actors. Yes.
So when you say it's pricey, how much did it cost to have SAG actors?
At the time, let's see, SAG actors were, I think it was $150 for an 8-hour day, and then time and a half for more, overtime, and then double time if you went beyond the overtime or extra days, things like that. So those rates have gone up since then. I'm not sure what they are right now.
They've gone up to about 200 a day.
Up to about 200. Okay. So what at our level, we would have some SAG actors and then some that aren't, and because at $200 a day, you also have to be realistic with your budget. How much, because also when you have a crew, you have to commit to feeding them well. You want a happy crew that's well fed, with decent coffee. And so, some kind of
M&Ms.
breakfast.
I think there were a lot of M&Ms on your set.
Yes, M&Ms and coffee and, healthy snacks. I mean, the days of goldfish and, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, those days are gone. People, if they're going to, because a lot of people are there as volunteers. So the least you can do is feed them well and keep them hydrated. We were working in August, and so we drank an incredible amount of Gatorade and water and things like that. So
yes, it was hot. And I think every time there was a shot, this is for the contrast, every time there was a shot, I think you had to turn the AC off.
yes, yes.
Is that right? I'm remembering that correctly. Yeah.
Yes, because the roar, the sound of an air conditioner going, in a house is, you can hear that. It's definitely something that the mic picks up. So, we turn it off, take the shot, turn it back on, rearrange the set, move people around to different chairs or whatever locations, and then, do it again. So we were comfortable. We're very grateful for the contrast to our hosts. Seth and Sandy Fyack were very generous in allowing us to film in their home. And really, it's a big advantage to filming like up here in the North State compared to being in LA, where everybody, and like on Bad Detectives, every location we used, we had to pay for. Right. Because people are smart. Like, oh, and everybody thinks you're high-powered studio, and so we come in there, low budget characters, and we, hey, could we use this bar? It was called the Good Luck Club, Good Luck Bar, where you see the bar scenes and the red lanterns and everything, and oh sure, but there's a price, and but like up here in the North State, you could walk in and most places people would be happy, for the recognition, you give them some advertisement, you show the name of the bar, things like that. They're grateful to be a part of something, bigger than them. So
yeah,
it's a world of difference between Southern California and in Northern California, the rest of the country. So it's something to keep in mind. Yeah.
That you're talking about that because you're saying you're not even in Sacramento, you're 90 minutes north of Sacramento. You're like in the middle of a very, 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 very rural place. And, so many filmmakers, I think it's a little less so now, but so many people think you have to be in LA to make films. But the fact is, wherever you are, I'm half Trinidadian, I have clients in Trinidad, but wherever you are, there are advantages that you can use to your benefit that you wouldn't have in LA or San Francisco, where I lived for many years. There are advantages from being outside of that, whether it looks like a tax incentive or what you just said about, here you are in a small community and you probably know everybody and everybody knows you. And here you're bringing a movie and people want to be involved. And, in Trinidad, they made, V.S. Naipaul is a Nobel Prize winning Trinidadian author, and they finally were making a film there. And people would bring their chairs, their deck chairs, and they would sit and watch the filming, because they were part of it. Like, this is a Trinidadian story and a Trinidadian novelist and a Trinidadian Nobel Prize winner, and we're part of this film,
Yes.
So tell everybody a little bit about what Bad Detectives is about.
Okay. This came, the whole development came from working with Joanne. I had these scripts written, but they were all, I can't say big budget, but they were, more than we could ever do on a limited micro budget type thing. And so one of our projects, I was at Screenwriting U. It's an online course. They do a wonderful job. And I'd been through their courses, pro series, and I was in the master screenwriter certificate series. So anyway, one of my projects was a short, and I've always liked that San Francisco detective noir, Raymond Chandler, um, uh, uh, you know, theme. And so, you start thinking, okay, what if two of these old time detectives, and at the time, had sons, or I should say grandsons, who inherited the business? What would they do? And so I'd written just 5 pages, and talking with Joanne, and she, which is I'm very grateful for, why does it have to be sons? Why couldn't it be granddaughters? And
I said that.
I was like, yes, yeah, that was easy. Why couldn't it be granddaughters? And I'm like, why couldn't it be? And so that's where the concept of having these two granddaughters, their grandfathers had a detective agency right on the edge of Chinatown, kind of in the rough part of town. And they died under mysterious circumstances. These two granddaughters are brought together. They don't care for each other, some backstory there. And, they quickly learn that their grandfather's deaths weren't accidental, that they were absolutely murdered. And they, put their differences aside. We're going to work together and solve the crime and find out who killed our beloved grandfathers. So that's where the story starts. And we have quite a few characters. The grandfathers own a small building there in the city, and it has some tenants, which is mostly old timers, old veterans who live on pensions and Social Security and are just scraping by. And they just love to. They would come and hang out in the grandfather's office and tell war stories and play chess and drink coffee and maybe have a little Irish coffee sometimes. So they are going to help these two young women in their own way to solve the crime. And we have a couple of homicide detectives who could care less about these two young women. We've got the attorney who's handling the estate. He's got his eye on that building too. The grandfathers are gone. We've got an art dealer. We've got missing artifacts, ancient Chinese statue. There's a lot going on for these young women to deal with. And so we want to encourage them to stay safe and solve the crime. So.
Yes, so they, the reason they're bad detectives is because they're not detectives at all.
Yes.
They're just thrown into this situation where they have to solve a crime, and they certainly have no skills to do that.
Yes.
As everybody keeps reminding them, so with Bad Detectives, that is a thriller. What was it that made you decide to switch to romantic comedy for your second feature?
I had, okay, we're working. Okay, what are we going to do next? And I'd been following this story. It was just an article I'd saved from. There's a magazine called National Review, and Jonah Goldberg had authored an article comparing America to 1787, and a fellow by the name of Royal Tyler wrote a romantic comedy play, 1787. It turned out to be the first American produced play. Everything else had been imported from England and Europe. And so he said, hey, we're a new country. We can create our own art. And so he sat down and in about 6 weeks wrote a complete play that earned just great reviews for our young country. And it made fun, or poked fun, satire of the difference between America and the old European way of kings and royalty, and you must, bend to the Lord or the Duke. And he said, no, in America, we're equal. We don't believe these things. And so he wrote a play full of satire about that. And some things are still the same in America. We, still compare ourselves to Europe and these European ways. So I adapted that original play into a screenplay, and I'd had it for quite a while. It was one of my ones I'd done. And this was something that we could do on a limited budget in a mostly single location. And at the same time, we whatever pitched Joy Villa to be our lead actress. And she's a outspoken political activist, joyvilla.com. And she signed on, and then we pulled everybody together and shot the film, and it came out. We're really excited about that too, and looking forward.
So,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly, the 17th, was it 17th century or 18th century play
Yes.
was called The Contrast.
It was called The Contrast. Yes.
Called Contrast. Uh-huh. Yes. And, I obviously I have a British accent, and, lots of times people will say, oh, I love the way you speak, and all this. And which I think is fine. But then they'll say, oh, English people are so well-mannered or sophisticated or educated or whatever they say. And I say, oh yeah, have you ever been to a football match? And England is not right now
Yes.
getting thrown out of the European Cup or whatever because of the behavior of their fans. So just a little anti-European plug there.
England did very well.
Very well.
Very well this year. They lost in the final match against Italy.
Yes.
Kind of followed that, but
Yes.
they did outstanding. So they should compliment themselves and not be so frustrated. They came very, very close to winning the whole thing. So
being British means that kind of, there's just something very British about that kind of drowning your sorrows in your beer thing.
Yes.
Have to participate in. It's the end of the world, especially when it's about football. So,
Yes. Yes.
So the contrast was. I remember. That was interesting when the first version of the script that came from the play. That's a very interesting type of work, adaptation.
Yeah.
Adaptation. How was that process for you?
It took, I think I've got like 8 versions of it, because the original play, I can't say it was in that Shakespeare dialect, but it was a very antiquated way of speaking compared, and we wanted to be contemporary. We didn't want to do a period piece. We wanted to be contemporary. So that took quite a bit of changing. And then there was also, some things in the culture of 1787 that we don't do anymore in these modern times. In those days, the lead actor was a Colonel Henry Manley, and he had, it was written in the play, a manservant. And so, we don't have that anymore. And things, so there was quite a bit of
most of us
updating and also relationships and to make it contemporary. It took quite a bit of work to whip it into shape.
Yeah. What do you think is the difference between adaptation and writing an original script?
It really depends on what you're adapting from and who owns it, because that's, from a screenwriter's point of view, a friend of yours or somebody has written a book and you want to adapt it in, that'd make a great film. Let's, adapt it. But the owner of the book says, oh no, we can't take out that character. They're very important. So, you have like a 400-page book. and you want to squeeze that into a 90-minute film, you have to lose characters, you have to cut scenes. And if it's, some kind of material that's recent and the author is still alive, or the estate of the family is still alive, that's kind of the biggest struggle. You do a lot of work and then they say, oh no, we can't do it without, the John Doe character. That's important. The author feels it's important. And so you can get stuck on that kind of thing. So
well,
you really need a clear understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, and you didn't have that problem because this piece was so old. It was in
Yeah, the
public domain.
public domain, yes.
But I
I think
just want to say, because I don't want to leave that on the table, that if you do want to adapt a work where it's within the last 50 years, you have to clear that with the estate of the author before taking any time writing. It's just, there's no point at all in writing the script first and then seeing if you can get clearance from the author's estate. It has to be the other way around. But in your case, it was public domain, so the play was there, and you could do whatever you wanted with it.
And I see a question. Would you recommend as a new screenwriter to do an adaptation or to write something absolutely fresh, original? I would write something fresh, original. And I understand, most everybody has this dream project, this dream screenplay. But so for your first one, put that one aside so that you have the experience of going through the process on something else, so that when you do come to your dream project, you are ready for it. I mean, you have experience, you're mentally prepared, the process. And also, I mean, for screenwriters, to be flexible, these scenes that have to be cut because of budget constraints or location, or or the original contrast play had 8 main characters, which is a lot of characters to give screen time to realize them all. So we dropped 2 so that we ended up having 6 main characters, our 3 leads, and then 3 more supporting characters. And so that's
and really,
those choices you have to make. Yeah.
By the time you did the contrast, you were really an experienced screenwriter. You had the 5 features, you had Bad Detectives, which went through many iterations, and then the contrast. So you were already at screenplay number 7. So you were pretty advanced. And I just, before we open it up to questions, I just want to talk a little bit about what we're working on now with the series. And so we are pitching Bad Detectives as a series where we would follow these young women. Maybe every episode they solve a crime, or maybe there's a crime over a few episodes. So what did you need to do to put together our pitch for Bad Detectives, the series? What did you have to do?
For the TV world, production companies, they like to see 5 seasons. They want to be able to plan ahead that, hey, if this does well, that it has a future, that these characters, are going to live and fight and carry on for at least 5 seasons. And so you need to develop kind of an overarching character arc as they go through these 5 seasons, and you need to elevate the problems, the struggles they're facing as time goes forward. I mean, they have, like, every episode they'll be solving some crime, working on that, but you need to have a larger picture in mind for these 2 young women, of where their lives are going, as they grow into the role of being detectives. What else is out there for them as individuals? Is there larger crimes to deal with? Is there relations, boyfriends, maybe marriages? Will there be children? You know, will they lose somebody close to them? You need to develop this and have it. There's a structure for this, clearly written out, and then hope that one of the larger studios will like this and will give it a green light, and then they would authorize the production of a pilot episode. And then if they like that, because they'll have like 10 different pilots for one slot in their schedule. And so if yours is interesting enough and done well enough, they would select yours, and then they would develop, and going forward. That's kind of the goal, the end zone, but you've got to climb, it's a ladder, and there's a lot of steps to go through. So we're encouraged. We're working with a producer who has carried projects before all the way to fruition, and we're hoping that we are able to say the same in a short time. So we'll see. It's you have to be patient. That's one of the key words here. Yes.
I mean, the thing that I like about the approach, this approach, is that what I'm hearing a lot today is filmmakers saying, I want to make a series, or even embarking on making a series. It's sort of the latest thing. But from my perspective, it's almost impossible for a filmmaker to raise enough money to make a series. So, what Chris did was make a feature, and now we were able to show the trailer for the film, talk about the film coming out, having distribution, and then I think what they asked for was the script to the feature, the trailer, and then the pilot for the TV series, the series Bible, and the series Bible included the 5 seasons.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So a lot of work, but I think, was it you just, Chris, who just said, 1 in 100 or something?
Yes. Yes.
Or more than that, 1 in, I don't know, 100,000. But
1 in 1,000, yes. So.
But to me, this is the right order of doing things, because otherwise it really is possible to just spend a lifetime without actually seeing your work on the screen. Whereas this way around, we put together an ultra low budget feature, well, 2, and now are also going the shopping route. But I find a lot of filmmakers start down the shopping route, and it's just, then you can spend 30, 40, 50 years in that kind of, it's termed development hell. And it's development hell just because, well, from my perspective, because you just have no control. You just have no control. And I don't find that to be any fun at all.
Yes, no. And so you also have to keep moving forward. So, okay, we have Bad Detectives, it's out there. You just don't sit around and wait. You start working on your next project, because it could take, 2, 3, 4 years. And then one of these large studio companies, they'll like it, but they'll get bought out, or executives will change, and then it'll get moved over to another studio. And so these things, patience is a key word, and keep pushing forward. You've got that done, it's out there. Start working on something else. Don't just sit around and wait for that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Time for your 3rd movie, Chris.
Yes. And talking, we're, as this whole COVID and the restrictions wind down, we look forward to filming a new project. Hopefully this winter. We're looking December, January, something like that. And we have a couple of strong ideas. We're really looking at doing a Christmas movie, more, because that really fits in my world. it's, I can't say it's faith-based, but this film would be faith-friendly. And I can't really say a romantic comedy. No, it's going to be a Christmas film. So,
Christmas movie.
yes, yes,
Movie.
Christmas movie. Hmm.
Family, maybe family.
Yeah, family. There's going to be some drama, but
Okay.
we want it to be able to be seen by, most all ages. Nothing, too um, violent or risque or anything like that. Christmas movies, yes.
Christmas
Hmm.
movies. Christmas movies.
Yes.
So, I'd like to open it up for questions. I know that some questions went by in the chat, but I always try and focus on my guests. So if you have a question, I think I saw Justin had a question and somebody else. If you'd like to turn your camera on or turn your audio on and ask the question, that would be great.
Hello.
Hi, Justin. Nice to meet you.
Hi. How are you?
Great.
My question was, I wanted to know if screenplays with amazing ideas or concepts, are they better being picked up by directors who don't necessarily have a style per se, who are more prolific in their process versus auteurs who have a specific style of vision that aligns with their universe? I was just curious to find that out.
Did the audio go out for everybody? I heard the first half of the question, but not the whole question. Did you hear it, Chris?
Yes. Yeah.
Wait, I don't have
yeah,
any audio all of a sudden.
yeah. Um, let me
Wow, this
just speak.
happened like 2 weeks ago. I can't hear
Oh,
anyone.
yes, I remember that. Yes.
Alexi, can you hear Chris?
Yep, we can. I think everyone can hear
Oh,
everything
how
besides
bizarre.
you.
Well, you keep speaking amongst yourselves
Yeah.
because I
Um,
have no audio.
yeah. I think from a screenwriter's point of view, if you
Okay.
if you do want to attach a director to your whatever first project, but you really do want to find somebody who shares the same vision as you. So, if you're going to do a romantic comedy, you don't want to hire, a blood and guts horror director. You want somebody who can envision your goal as a screenwriter filmmaker, and that you have a good personal rapport with, that you can work together to achieve what you both see. And but you also want to find a director who has experience. I mean, has at least done one feature film. Maybe it easily could be a micro budget something, but as long as they've been through the process, or is very familiar with, directing and has spent quite a bit of time on set, so that they have an idea, and they have an agreeable personality. Like you said, you talked about somebody with an auteur, which is great, but if their personality is so highly developed that they alienate half of your crew, boy, you lose that magic. And then people are just kind of, they're going through the process, but they're not enthusiastic about it. And that just, it shows up in your final product.
That is great. And I think that part of what I hear in the question, this question about an auteur or frankly, at the, let's call it under $200,000 level movie, though that language doesn't really count. I would say, like Chris said, we're very practical people.
Yes.
The thing is, to be able to deliver a feature film for that budget is such a feat that I would just stay very practical. Can you get this done? Can you deliver this film? And those are the most important things to think about, I would say, at this budget level. Thanks, Justin. Nice to meet you. Mark, go ahead.
So, Chris, completing 5 scripts is really impressive, and I know that you have a farming business that you own or you run?
Yes, yes.
You know, how do you manage your time and energy in order to do that? I have a script that it's been on my heart for a long time, and I just don't seem to get to it. You know, how do you manage that?
I hope Chris won't mind if I mention he also has three little kiddies, three little children.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I didn't know that. Wow, Chris.
Yes, well, thank you, my little treasures. Yes, and and they're an inspiration. It's like, okay, if I'm going to do something, I want it done well and quality, because someday, many years from now, they'll grow up and say, hey, this is what my dad did 20 years ago or something like that. So, but I really, a couple of things. You always, okay, you have this script idea. Always carry a notebook, and when a thought crosses your mind, in the middle of the script, and one of your characters is doing something and you have an idea they could do something, write it down and just keep pages devoted just to that script. And as you go through your day, you'll slowly fill in one line or two lines, or you hear somebody say something clever and, hey, that'd be some great dialogue, and you just write that down. And then, what they say, budget your time. Make sure you set aside 45 minutes or an hour during your day, or longer. Farming is seasonal, so in the middle of winter, I have more free time, and then in late summer, I have more free time that I can devote to writing and developing and considering, and what if this character did this? Oh, that doesn't make sense. But if they did something else, that's a clear path, and it follows their character arc and the character's development. So, always be writing down notes and budget your time. Yes.
So you have like a 45-minute to an hour writing session, or I mean, how, like on a given day or given week, how many hours do you spend writing?
It depends. When in our farm business, we have spring planting, fall harvest. Very little writing gets done then, because. But on the other hand, and thanks to technology, if I'm out driving tractor or combine, we can have GPS guided steering, so I can reach over and write down some notes as I'm going along. Because you're in a box, and it's a good time to imagine different scenarios. And so, hey, that's a great idea. Or then you'll think back later, no, put an X through that. So.
You are
But not much actual writing gets done those time of years. Yeah.
You are the quintessential writer. You're out in the car or in the tractor, and suddenly is, oh, what if he said this?
Yes.
What if he went in? Wait a minute, pull over.
Yes.
I love it. That's great, Chris.
Yeah.
I think that, with Chris, the time thing is always interesting, how you work your time, but also how you keep so cool. I think it's really amazing, with the business and the films and the kids and and you always just seem to be very cool about the whole thing. And in a way, that's the only way to be.
Yeah. You can't. I mean, there are people, the ranters and the ravers, and they're jumping up and down, and they're, you can't do this kind of work and have that kind of personality. It just in the long, you can do it short term, but in the long run, you have to keep balance. Yes, keep perspective.
Yeah, keep perspective. And I think that one of the hardest moments for a filmmaker is the moment of handing over their film to a distributor. It's, I feel as though it's the most important thing for a filmmaker to do, and it seems a very hard moment for filmmakers. But it didn't seem as hard for you as for a lot of people.
I think you have to accept, because you're always, what if we go back and we add some more music to the scene, or we go back and we cut this scene and we add some more dialogue there. I mean, you always have those thoughts, but sometimes you just have to let this little birdie fly into the universe, because you've done everything you can, and you can't just keep tinkering with things. It's the same with the screenplay. You can keep tinkering with it for the next 20 years, but there's a time when you need to submit it or start working on it as a film, and it's good enough. Don't try to be a perfectionist, because and like screenwriting, so many things will get changed anyway, depending on location and actors and weather and everything. So you have that flexibility. Yes.
Kip, did you have a question? Good to see you.
I did have a question. Yeah. Hi, I'm Kip Pearson. I'm San Francisco Bay Area. I love the storyline. I can't wait to see Bad Detectives. I've written a similar story, and it ended up being like 120 pages, and I'm thinking, would it be better as a limited series? And my question to you is, do you have any sense of what the market would be for a limited series as opposed to 5 seasons of writing that you have to have in your head before you think about something as a pilot?
I would recommend to stay with a short, tight, maybe you have 5 or a limited series, like 3, a trilogy. There we go.
Right.
But do the first one and keep it small and tight. And if you get support for it, for your concept, for your idea, then you can do the second and then the third. But to do all 3 at the same time, it could be expensive, and you don't know if it's going to be well received by the market. I would do the first one and do it well, and then if you get positive feedback, you could carry on into episode 2 or episode 3. That's just my thought.
I've written it as a feature, but it's a long, dense feature, and there are more story threads that could come out of it. So, I'm first working on it as a feature format and submitting it to some festivals and so forth. But to see it come to life, really needs more time than just a 90-minute feature. I think.
Kip,
or at least it has that potential.
Are you speaking
Sorry?
as a writer here or as a filmmaker?
I'm speaking as a writer here. This is not something that I would be able to put together. It's a period piece. It's going to cost a lot of money. And I'm just wondering, I've written, it's a 3-act feature when the first act could be, the pilot. Just kind of wondering where to go with that. And if you think there's a real market for something like that, or is the market, TV series versus feature? I mean, is there really a format or distribution for a 3 or 4-part miniseries that in your opinion?
My question would be, what doors do you have open?
I don't know what you mean. It's done.
What doors can you walk through with a feature film versus what doors can you walk through with a series?
That's what I'm not sure of.
Do you have access to having your series made? Do you have those doors open to you?
I probably have the same access as I do with a feature film. I'm just writing it. It's just a screenplay at this point. It's going into film festivals and writing competitions, and that's as far as I've gotten with it.
Yeah. I mean, then you can enter a feature film, or you can enter it as a pilot for a series. It's just, how many applications you want to send out.
Right, right, exactly. Okay, thank you anyway.
Yeah. Diane, were you going to ask a question? I saw you on video for a minute.
Yeah, I'm really, thanks. And I ended up not being able to make it at the very beginning. So I'm sorry to have missed that, Chris. I love that you've written 5 scripts and that you've already made 2 features. And I haven't seen Bad Detectives yet, but I love the trailer, and it's fantastic. And I guess I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more. It looks like you've used the same director on both your features. And can you speak a little bit more about your relationship with your director and how that came about and what works or doesn't work for you?
We've been really fortunate to find Presley, who has so much industry experience. I mean, just constantly working, for the last, I don't know, 15 years in the industry. And he came on. Our original producer for Bad Detectives stepped aside. And so Presley, took the lead. I was helping out as we, carried Bad Detectives through post-production and into distribution. But we just ended up getting along really well, talking about film and life and everything. And then for the contrast, he, which worked out really well, moved over to the producer side, doing a lot of the organizing, planning, and everything. And Sean Doob, who worked on Bad Detectives, he moved into the director's role.
Oh, okay.
And but the two of them really worked together on the directing to, bring out the best performances from our actors, and all the planning and the setups and everything, really went well. And I look forward to working with Presley on future projects. I would highly recommend him for other directing work out there. So I'm very impressed with his skill. Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. And then just one last question. You may have talked about this in the beginning. So have you always written? Is that something that you've always done? I love the range of ideas that you have. I mean, a lot of writers have that, that ability to, obviously most filmmakers I know are working on a lot of different things at once, but is that something that's been true of you?
Yeah. I didn't really get serious about writing until it would be like 20 years ago or something, because, I wasn't, because, well, why write? It'll never get made. It's impossible. You have to rent a camera and all the film and so it just didn't happen. And if I, I'm going to get, and I'm, looking online for online courses, and, went through quite a few and ended up with Screenwriting U, which really helped me develop all the fundamentals and character development and dialogue and themes, and it was really a good experience. And then once hey, I don't mind doing this, and developing a story idea into a whole 80-90 page screenplay, with a beginning, a middle, and an end. It was an interesting, it's challenging, but I really like doing it. And so I'm happy in my work. Yes.
All right. Well, it definitely shows. So thank you. Thank you. This is inspiring.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Chris is definitely an inspiration to us all. The balance thing I think is really amazing. So does anybody else have a question before we go? I feel as though I just had a question and then it went away. I can't remember. So I think we have no more questions. So thank you so much, Chris. Oh, I know what I had. The question was just a technical one. Have you delivered the contrast yet, or are you still in the process of delivery?
It's been delivered to a distributor, and they are currently shopping it. We'll see where it lands. They have several, markets that they're options, whatever. I mean, that they're looking at. We'll be receiving an update here relatively soon, what their plans are for it. If we, it would be great to be on one of the HBO Showtime things. I don't know, if we're there. But if not, I imagine we'll be in a similar place as Bad Detectives. And so stay tuned.
Well, thank you so much. It's always such a pleasure working with you, Chris. And Mark, I hope you get to start that screenplay. Bye, everybody.